Thank you. Good morning, President Vicky, committee, Chief Guest Purav Raja, members and guests. It is 6:30 a.m. in London and the temperature is 2 degrees. However, this is not a BBC News channel. I am here in London to introduce my nephew Purav Raja, who's very much in Mumbai. Purav is a top 100 ranked player in men's doubles ATP rankings. As Vicky said, he was number 52 in 2016. A remarkable achievement in a tough sport like tennis, which is played in 150 countries. Purav is a Bombay boy. He went to Campion School and is in fact, in a way, a Bombay midtown boy because his maternal grandfather was our late member, Mulraj Bhai Kabali. Some of you may have known him well. Mulraj Bhai's daughter, Kiran, Purav's mother, is here today, as is Kiran's wife, as Purav's wife, Amisha Jalota, who is the niece of Anup Jalota and a singer in her own right. Welcome, Kiran and Amisha too. Purav has been playing tennis since the age of 7. At 10, he went to Millfield in Somersetshire, which is the finest boarding school for sports in England. When he returned to India in 2006, he was crowned DSCL men's singles and doubles national champion. In the last 7 years, he has climbed steadily in the ATP rankings. He won 2 ATP tours in Bogota and Los Cabos, 14 ATP doubles titles and 16 futures doubles titles. He played at Wimbledon for 3 years and he has played in all the 4 Grand Slams in America, Australia, France, and England. Is that correct, Purav? Getting it right? Okay.
You're getting most of it right, Asha bhai. Well done.
Most of it is good.
Yeah.
Purav played the Davis Cup with Leander Paes and recently with Rohan Bopanna. He coached and captained, in the midst of all his hectic schedule, the Singapore Slammers team and won second and third edition with powerhouses like Carlos Moya, Stanislas Wawrinka, and Andy Murray, etc. In the standstill year of 2020, he created and hosted a hugely popular TV show called Chai with Raja on Sony Pictures Sports Network, with tennis stars like Jim Courier, Sania Mirza, Marat Safin, and many more, where his friendly, humorous personality came to the fore. He hopes to hold a Grand Slam trophy and make India proud. Thank you. Over to Purav.
Thanks so much, Asha bhai. Firstly, thank you for having me, President. It's my pleasure to be here on this platform in front of you guys. And obviously, I've had a long representation with Rotary, so with my grandfather, and now obviously with Asha bhai. So quickly on Asha bhai, where do I start? So basically, I went abroad when I was about 10 to 11 years old, and she was like the second parent that we always looked at, me and my brother. So it's credit to her that I am really where I am. So in a nutshell, it's a big credit to my parents, but also my second parents, which are Asha bhai and her family. So thanks again for having me on this platform. More importantly, Rotary. So it's prestigious. I've heard about it for so many years. Everyone keeps talking about the Rotary Club, the Rotary Midtown. So when Asha bhai gave me this opportunity, I said I have to do it, and it's not something I'm used to talking for 20-25 minutes, but hopefully I'll be good enough to do it to the best of my ability. So I'm just here to tell you guys a little bit about tennis and why, how I decided on tennis, my tennis experiences. If you guys want to jump in at any point in time, feel free to jump in, and I'm happy to chat about it further. So I'd like to start with why I decided on tennis. So tennis to me was just like, it was like all of you really. It was like I went from Campion School to MSLTA. I started off just a very normal guy going from MSLTA to Campion every day. It was the easiest thing in the world. It was opposite me. It was convenient. tennis was an individual sport. It was one of those things that I always wanted to pursue. It was one of those things that I felt like it was much easier to me than a team sport to do. And before I knew it, really, I had a scholarship to a school to the school in the UK, which was a dream at 10 years old. I barely knew how to tie my shoelaces, but I was here getting a scholarship to a school in England and a way to be popular, a way to be cool. And it was really happened to me by chance. It wasn't something that I had planned to do. It wasn't something that I intended to do till later on. And I'm grateful really for the opportunity on why I decided on tennis. I feel like it's an individual sport. It gave whatever I've done today, it's because I have done it and there's no team and there's nothing to, fall back on. And I feel like my successes are my successes and obviously my failures are my failures. Um, so, so experiences on the tour. So I would say my last 7 years, obviously I've played the last 17. I mean, I've played 17 Grand Slam main draws, last 7 Wimbledons. I've really done well. I've reached third round in most of them. And life on the tour is interesting. It's it's 40 weeks of travel. It's 40 weeks on the road. There's a lot of highs. There's a lot of highs, but honestly, it's a sport of losing every week and paying 30 to 50 lakhs a year to sustain yourself to be at the high level, which is why we do not produce so many players as we probably should over a period of time. It takes a lot mentally, it takes a lot for financially, but the gains are huge, and I was lucky that I was able to do it. It's 40 weeks of travel basically means that I'm traveling without any idea of when I'm coming home next based on my schedule and how well I do in those tournaments. Based on the points achieved in those tournaments, I get to make the Grand Slam cuts. So if I am, for example, if I'm 70 in the world and my partner is 50, we combine at 120. And the Grand Slams, they take the highest few teams to make the cut. So it's very mathematical. And someone like Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, they'll combine at maybe 5 in the world because Roger's 2 and Rafa would be 3. So just to give you an idea of how Grand Slams work, it's a very mathematical process. There's no real hiding from the truth, and our rankings change every Monday. So every Monday we have a new ranking, which good or bad, that's just the way it is. So so quickly, I'll tell you a little story about travel. What does travel involve? Travel involves everything from Japan to America to England to Paris. But I'll tell you a story about Uzbekistan because that's the that I thought I'll tell you guys a story about my life on the road. So when I was younger and I was about 27 years old, I just converted. I was just cracking into the top 100 and I decided to travel to Uzbekistan. I mean, Delhi to Tashkent, it's a tough enough flight as it is. There's thousands of immigration hassles before you get there. And the next day, I decided to travel Tashkent to Fargana, which is actually a short flight. It's a domestic 40-minute flight, maybe the distance of Bombay to Goa. And I said, why don't I just travel, Tashkent, Fargana? I don't feel like taking a 7-hour drive. I'll just take a plane. So I'm really tired and I'm messaging Amisha, messaging my mom, saying everything is fine, everything is going well. And I'm on this plane and I'm literally we have a boarding pass, but it's a handwritten boarding pass. So it's like they write my seat number, which is 7A, but it's handwritten in pencil, and I have to check in, put my bags onto the plane. And I'm thinking this is a bit weird, but I'm just going with the flow, and I've reached this plane now. When I'm on the plane, I'm really tired. I go on the window seat. I'm looking back, and I think that everybody on the plane nobody's wearing seatbelts. I think this is strange. Also, everybody's on the mobile phone. I think this is strange, but I'm just going with the flow. I'm like, it's a 40-minute flight. How bad can it be? So I look back, and there's a full load of live cattle on the same plane as me. So their live cattle is just standing. There's like goat and sheep and everything just behind me on the plane with me. So I mean, that's just one of the stories that I could think of for you guys, just to sum up my traveling experiences. Obviously, there's a lot of fun involved, but this story kind of stays with me of Uzbekistan for a long period of time. So I'll talk about my TV show. So since the pandemic and since I wanted to kind of give back to the sport, the sport that's helped me do so well, that's given me so much. I always thought in this pandemic, let's give back, let's try and give back. And the easiest way to give back was, I could help the kids, which I try and do, but how much difference could I make without going out and without doing stuff? So I was like, why not try my hand at something with TV, something that I could actually show the tennis players in a real light. Like I want you guys to know that we're no heroes. We're absolutely no heroes. We're just very, very, very normal people who do exactly the same things as you guys do. And really, all these guys who I interviewed are really my friends. So just my honest opinion on the show was just every time you look at the tennis players, is just we always talk in a language that's the match was great, and we always, the match was great. Big credit to the other guys; they did really well. The game worked for me today. But the truth is something different. The truth is exactly what you guys are thinking. The truth is we really wanted to win. The truth is that we all have a past. We all have girlfriends and boyfriends and families and the rest of the issues. So we all have the same kind of issues that you go through, and we all have the same opinions about Trump and Biden and Modi and Congress, and we all have the same opinions about everything. But the light that we showed, I wanted to kind of show all of our tennis players in a light that is very real. I feel like our tennis players, the reason why we're not so popular is we miss out on the fun side of things and the entertainment side that nobody really knows us. So that is one of the key reasons I did try with Raja, to kind of host a very normal, very amicable conversation with the people to try and go forward. And to try and put tennis in a really fun space for the juniors to play, for people to play. I feel like we only hear of the top guys, we only hear about the Federers and then the Nadals because they're marketed a little bit better. But there are a lot of us who are just normal and are doing quite well. So that was my reason for Chai with Raja. Coming back to my advice to youngsters, as Ashraf told me to touch up upon. Um, my advice to anybody really is firstly that I just sustained. I'm no hero. I sustained it longer. I worked a little bit harder than everyone, and I was at it for a consistent period of time. So there wasn't anything that I did that was great. I just did this. I just did it regularly for the last 25 years. So that's why I got to where I was and where I am today, which is in the top 100 for the last 7 years. And I mean, it's one of those things that I always say is small things done well over a period of time. So you don't expect miracles. So I mean, it's going to happen. When it happens, I'm not sure. Is my voice okay, or is it cutting in between? The voice okay? Okay. Thanks, Preston. Thank you. Um, my advice to youngsters. So my first advice, touching up on that, is master one thing. I said we have to realize in today's society as Indians that Albert Einstein and Roger Federer are two very different people. I think we try and make the same person. We try and create our children to be Einstein and Roger Federer. Nobody asked Einstein how good he was at tennis, and nobody asked Federer for his maths degree. So I think it's very important that we create that kind of environment and we master one thing and not expect our children or our future or our youth to do everything great. I think this is where I've said this multiple times to a lot of people I meet, that if you master one thing, I don't play everything well in tennis. I have a lot of weaknesses, but what I do well, I do really well, which leads me on to focusing on your strengths and getting your strengths better, and your weaknesses automatically rise, which is I I feel like us as a country, we mean very well and we strive to get better at everything. But I would encourage all of us to try and master one thing. Uh, Second piece of advice is probably the most important, which is as a unit or as a sporting nation, we have to learn to fail. We have to learn to fail better, and we have to learn to fail harder. I feel like we are only interested in a sport that we're successful at, and unfortunately it requires failing every week to try and get better. um, as a unit, I feel like even me, I sometimes protect my own people from failing, which is the absolutely wrong approach. So I think we should, as a for a number of reasons in Europe or in America, maybe because some people have less in Eastern Europe or in Serbia or wherever they come from, I feel like they are okay with the idea of failing. And really, tennis is a failing sport. Roger Federer has a great year. He wins 7 tournaments out of the 28 he plays. Somebody else, I have a great year. I win 5 tournaments. I've done phenomenally well. And as a unit, I think it's very important that we learn how to lose and learn how to learn from our losses and keep getting stronger from them. Talent is the next one I was going to touch up upon. Talent. So as a player, if you talk to anybody about me, they'll say I'm the most talented player India has seen, or worldwide, I'm known as a talented tennis player. A lot of parents come to me and they ask me, my kid is very talented. My kid is very, I feel like my kid needs to play tennis because everybody says he's very talented. Me probably being the most talented player India has produced over the last 20 years, according to people, I feel like talent is the most useless virtue to possess in sport. Talent builds an ego, and talent over a period of time might open the first door, might open the second door. It's not opening the last door. So talent, I mean, I'll give you a cricket example if you guys want. Vinod Kambli played his last test for India when he was 22 years old. He was extremely talented. He played when he got bounced in Wankhede by Courtney Walsh, was his last test match for India. Talent to me is built an ego. I feel like when I lost this talent, I became a better tennis player. Over and above everything, it's your attitude and your passion to perform that produces world-class sportsmen. It's not a talent that produces world-class sportsmen. Talent is just the start. Talent is probably the least required virtue to make a tennis player or to make any sportsman in today's environment. Today's sportsmen are based on science. Today's sportsmen are based on well-structured individuals, and today's sportsmen are based on perseverance more than anything. So finally, I'll end you guys with a story. When I was young, when I was in Bombay, the same person, there were these kids, there was this president of the MSL, I think it was the secretary or whatever he was of MSLTA. He came to my family and he said, AC गाड़ी में आके कोई tennis player नहीं बन सकता, कोई national champion नहीं बन सकता AC गाड़ी में आके. So I looked at him and he looked on, and time flew by, and he went on to say AC गाड़ी में आके कोई Wimbledon नहीं खेल सकता है. And 10 years later, time flew by. I never knew this story. My parents never told me this story. Later, when I was maybe 20 years old, the same guy who said that story had to present me with the national champion trophy. So that goes on to tell you that nothing is impossible, and just keep working. And I think that all my experiences really lead me to believe in the few things that I've said. And lastly, thank you so much to everyone who's had me on the platform. I'm open for questions and I'm open for any interaction now. Thanks for having me, President, and thanks, Asha.
Thank you, Purav. This is fabulous. Very, very genuine and very,
Thank you.
And from the heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take the thunder away from the gentleman who's going to give you the vote of thanks. So we will head to the question and answer now. So please, Dr. Morad has a question.
Sure. Doctor.
Yeah, I just want to add a little thing, so because it's very right what you said. Talent is just one part, and here in India it's completely always misinterpreted. So many want to have children who become tennis professionals, tennis stars, and in the very end, it's not only the sports section; it's about forming character. And this is the thing what people have to learn. Not everybody who just said it might be a world top players, but tennis and discipline for tennis and discipline for any sports would give you so much, which you can use also in other aspects of life, and very much important. And I myself, I visited some of the tennis academies myself. I'm a coach myself, and I found it much more important to educate these young personalities in a very round and on all aspects of life, and who maybe you might not make it to the top, But there's one side effect, in other countries, like in Germany, in particular in US, if you hire somebody, you're always looking about the sports credentials. Because if somebody has to show discipline in sports, he will have just discipline in his profession, and in the other skills he developed over the years, he will show his discipline in sports. He will know how to handle defeats and how to get up on his feet again afterwards. He will be able to be a team player, and also on the same time he will have learned to be a team leader. This is very much more important. Or in my own case, I never made it to very top layer, but I could always have access worldwide into society immediately. I just could go everywhere. I just went to the next tennis club and I made friends in so many countries, on so many continents, and it's just wonderful here. And this is a very important aspect. And as said, talent is not enough, but even if you will have talent and you train, and even if you're not a top player, tennis will give you so much reward for the rest of your life. You will never miss it. And it's just worthwhile like in any other sports.
Thanks. Thank you.
Good. Any more questions? Does anybody have any questions? I cannot see everybody, so if anybody has, they can just come in.
I'm free, guys. Whatever you need.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Purav, nowadays they are trying to merge technology with sports. Like, for example, not just Third Empire, much beyond. Like Microsoft is thinking of putting a chip in cricket bats, so batsmen can improve their swings or their shots. So tomorrow they might want to put a chip in a tennis racket. And I don't know where this is all going to. So do you have any thoughts on these?
I think it's a very fair point, President. I think that we're working. That's why I said that we are not. That's why that leads me from the point of talent being not important, because there's so much science involved in the game today that we can actually make tennis players just based on science, just based on the technology that we know. 20 years from now, we'll know even more information that will actually make it easier to build these players. So once we know the flaws in the technique much earlier on, once we know what balls they're missing, once we know X, Y, and Z that we never knew before, which will make the sport much more better, where physically everybody's getting so much better. The technology is getting so much better, which means that we are in a great position and we are technologically a great country. So, I mean, it leads me to believe that all this will only help our chances to become a better sporting nation in the future.
Yes, I agree. But, don't you think being naturally good, using a natural instincts and fair play for the whole, technology should not enter into every sphere?
I think we don't have a choice, President. I think that I think what is natural anymore is, I think there's not much that's natural. I think right now we are looking at sports as so much money, and I think that I think it's more important to give people a career option. I think the best thing cricket has done for our country is give people a viable sporting option. There's literally 5 of us who, make a living playing tennis, while there's about 500 cricketers who make a living in India today. So I would love for India to progress and build many more sporting professions. So I think this is the way forward. It's a easier route because we can actually tackle the thing, and everybody will be using it. So we can try and say it's natural, but to build a tennis player, maybe we agree to produce it naturally, but some other countries definitely won't. They'll try and do their best to get a step up on us. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Vicky, can I ask something?
Yes, Vinod has a question, I think.
Okay,
Vinod,
go ahead.
do you have a question?
Purav, my question is around building academies and building sports into education, because I work very closely in the education sector. What is your view? You often hear of cricket academies, but not so often of tennis academies. Is that something you've had some experience with, either internationally or domestically?
Yeah. Hi, Vinod. So touching on that point, really quickly. So the tennis academies, what happens is there are a few. So there's a few flaws that we face. One is that we have no indoor center in the country. So what leads to that is it rains 4 months a year. and it's too hot to play 4 months of the year. So we can't really match the European standards in terms of just training hours, because what we end up doing is we have 4 months of rain and 4 months of, so the tennis academy option is great, but I would suggest that it would be indoors to create a level playing field as the rest of the world, because the rest of the world plays on an indoor facility, and at least has provisions for an indoor facility. So just to be on par, we need to keep the training hours the same. Then comes the coaching, then comes the practice, then of course comes a lot of other things, the technology. But our training hours are very, very different today. We cannot train for half the year. I mean, I just say half the year, but at least 4 months of the year. And it, and honestly, the talent that we have is getting wasted every day because we are not giving in the right amounts of time required to produce this. So in cricket, for example, the cricket academies, you can play every day. Cricket, playing for India is the end goal for any cricketer. Playing for India as a tennis player is only the start goal. Playing Wimbledon is the end goal. So there's a big difference in what we require played by 150 countries. Also, a lot of tennis happens. There's one tournament a year in India, while the cricket academies that you were discussing, we have a lot of home court advantages. So like we half of their schedule is played in India, if not 8 months of the year. So they have I mean, there's a lot of advantages to having cricketing academies. Tennis academies, obviously, we need a big improvement in our coaching staff. Our coaching needs to get a lot better. Our exposure needs to get a lot better. But first and foremost, we need to have the right training hours to try and even match. So
Sure. Thank you.
thank you.
Willis.
Purav, Manoj here.
I'm
Purav, hi. So, imagine a set of young parents who have a child they feel is passionate about tennis and would like to nurture that talent further, take it forward. How would you advise them to go ahead with that? To just take it forward, his passion and the career, or at least the training, forget the career to begin with.
I'd like to first start on a negative. That is that even if he does everything right, he has a 0.1% chance of making it at the top. So so the start is rough. The start but I would seriously suggest that we program him in a way that he starts building his tennis career today, which is playing the right amount of time. There are people in Spain who stop school when there are abundance of kids. I think there's something crazy like 2,500 kids or 4,000 kids. Every place that you go to in every city in Spain who have stopped schooling, who stopped doing everything. How do we match these guys? Are we ready to give up school? Are we ready as a nation? Are we ready to give up all our exams? Are we ready to give up all our marks? I'm not sure I'm ready, uncle. I'm not sure if I would do that for my kid as a nation. I'm talking about where I grew up from. So unless we are ready to train for 5 hours a day and give everything into tennis, we shouldn't expect anything to come out of it. So I mean, I'm sure that this will change, and I hope to be a leading force in doing this. But eventually, unless we're putting the kid through 5 to 7 hours of training a day without any other disturbances, we can't really expect the world from it. So.
Thank you.
Vicky, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, go ahead, Jamshid.
Yeah, hi, Purav. You mentioned that you have been on the circuit for about 20-25 years.
15 years, yeah.
What difference do you see in the facilities that India has to offer from where you started to today? We all know here that besides cricket, every other sport is given a stepmotherly treatment. So what is your views or your finding on this?
Well, thanks, uncle. Just like I said earlier, I think the key is that, I mean, from a positive, the cow dung courts have become hard courts. So that's a good thing. The courts that there was no surface and now the courts are layered. Everybody now has access to a tennis court. I think it's possible. The training has gotten a little bit better. But until we kind of build this indoor facility, we'll always be a part-time tennis nation or a part-time sporting nation. Right now, I mean, a lot of countries, 140 countries are just laughing at us because we don't even have the infrastructure to train full-time. We don't even have the facilities to kind of to match them in any sort of demands. You know, we don't have the best climate. We have a 40 to 45-degree climate in Bombay that makes it very hard for a kid to train for more than an hour or two at a stretch, which means that the goal of the 10,000 hours goal or whatever they say is much tougher to achieve. I mean, people are surpassing that and people are going much beyond that. But where we've come is great in terms of that we are now looking at sports seriously. In the last 15 years ago, we were not looking at building anything. We were looking at average. Even our hard courts, there were very few. There was cow dung courts. The coaching wasn't professional. So we are growing slowly, but I think the rate of growth is a bit slower than I would like it to be. With the financial independence that we have today, I think the growth is a little bit slower than how it could be. So that would be.
Thanks, Purav.
Bharat, please go. Carry.
Yes. Hi, Purav.
Hi.
Can you tell us your experience on playing different surfaces continuously year after year?
Yeah, it's surfaces. So you know, it started off with, I always thought that Wimbledon is the fastest one on grass and playing on the French Open on clay. But you know, right now I would say that a lot of surfaces are very, very, very similar. They tried to make it in a way where Wimbledon now is just as slow as the French Open or just as fast as the French Open. The courts have really slowed down a lot over the last 15 years. And the biggest impact is on the knees. So the biggest impact I face is in the feet movement and on the knees. They try to keep everything else similar, but the knees and the feet movement is where you feel the big difference. So I try to focus a lot on my knees and try to keep them as nimble as possible to get the maximum out of the surface. So a hard court, for example, is very hard on the knees, while as a clay court, you're feeling a very soft kind of pressure on the knees. And the grass is obviously very different. It's a squidgy type of texture. So I'd say the surface speed is similar and they're getting it more same. But the change that I face and the problem that most players face is on the joints and on the knees. So I think that would be my one major change that I've seen over the years.
Purav, if I may,
Can I ask a question, Vicky?
yes, please go ahead, doctor.
Yeah. Hi, Purav. Congratulations.
Thanks, Doc. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm all covered. I'm in the operation theater in the mask, but I just heard you a bit.
Yes, Dr. Dilip Raja, and he shares the same last name as you.
Thank you for making time, doctor. Thank you.
Yeah, Purav, I think what we have is one thing is common, and Ashaben knows it. I have, in fact, found them after many, many, many years, somewhere along the family tree. We sit together, but I'm saying that because we take very serious proud in you and for your achievements.
Thank you.
I just have to ask you one question, Purav.
Yeah.
During your upbringing and all that, in our Gujaratis, or normal tendency is a lot of stress is given on schooling, education, and things like that. How did it? You were from campaign school, and you kind of, did you have some kind of a competition between your studies and your tennis timings and things?
Hi, Uncle. Thank you. Hi. I think the key was, Uncle, I went to England at the age of 10, 11 years old. I don't know who had the vision, whether it was Asha Foy and Dad together who sat down, whether it was Mom. I don't know who had this vision to send me at 10 years old to England, but it was the best decision in retrospect, because there's no way I could have done it from India, which is why I think that it was the best decision of my life to go abroad when I was 10 years old. At the time, it felt like the worst thing someone's ever done to me. But I think if I wouldn't have done this, the pressure and the schooling would have got to all of us. So that's why I say, as a nation, that we are not ready to produce tennis players yet. Because we're not ready. And in my school, it didn't matter how good I was at studies. They only cared how well I did at tennis. And my marks in school were based on how well I did at tennis. So everybody respected me for my tennis. So nobody really ever asked me how well I did at school, and nobody still asks me. My school knew me for tennis, and they just kept encouraging me to play. I was a okay student. I was reasonably good, but I think the staff and the teachers, they made me a better student than I really was. So I think that's I think that's
I
something
think parents discovered your potential right from the very
that
kid age.
maybe they discovered, or maybe, like a lot of things in life, it just happens. And I would encourage, like, I would hope that in the next few years we can become more like that, and we can become more of a sporting nation, and encourage our kids to play more sport, and to follow their passion rather than to worry about the marks they get in school. Because I honestly don't remember the marks I got, and I think, if we produce one Federer or one Nadal, it'll be way more important than to get an average mark in school.
Vicky, I think Jürgen has a
Thank you,
question.
Purav. Congratulations once
Thank
again.
you.
And
Thank
we
you,
are
Doc.
very proud of you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you for taking time. Thank you.
Yes, Manoj.
I think Jürgen has a question.
Yes, doctor. Please come in. Dr. Murad.
Hey, I was just wondering, you were sent at 10 years to UK, but did your parents push you to become a tennis player, or what did you develop just the love for the sports and the passion just completely yourself?
I think, like, when I was 10, I had to the time of pushing really for my generation came between 10 and 19. And I was never home between 10 and 19. I was only home for maybe a week or two. So I would put it the other way. I was pushed to go to the school, and the school pushed me into tennis. So the school made me popular because of tennis. I was pushed to go to the school. I'm not sure I would have made that decision on my own. Looking back at it, my first year was miserable, and then I started getting, homesick in the first year. Nobody wants to leave India when they're 10 years old. Life is too good in India to leave at 10. But I mean, we had to do it, and I would put it the other way. I would say that my family kind of made this little cocoon for me in England, and then the school pushed me through. The trouble is, when parents push you, I think it can be stepping on the wrong boundaries. Maybe you're rather than being a good mom, she would become a good coach, and then it messes up our relationship. But we got lucky.
Okay, I asked on this last purpose, right? Because whenever you go here to the courts and you see training, there is one adult standing with a kid on the court, right? In all ages, they're always there. And you didn't mention it, but here also the younger players, even the younger who have developed already, they don't feel as a nation or as a team. While you see in other countries, the tennis association has a team, has one coach traveling with them. The parents are completely pushed aside. Here, every other good player is considered as a competitor, and not as you can only grow because you have a good peer group.
Exactly.
That is also something with the mentality, what you said, by school and the other issues. But still, everybody wants to do it by himself, and not understanding that it's a team effort where a country has to come out. Like Spain has a whole group of one generation players, Sweden, Germany. It always has to be a whole group which comes out together. Individuals is very difficult to make.
Just to add to your point, Doctor, in India, we go to the doctor. We don't go to the hospital. In Europe and America, we go to the hospital, not the doctor. So it's like that in tennis. We go to in Europe, we go to the academy. We don't worry about the coach. In India, we're worried about who the coach is and how the coach can benefit us. So everything here is very specified to the individual, which means that the parent takes automatic responsibility. There, when we go to the hospital, let the hospital take over. When we go to the academy, we let the academy take over. So I think that's a formula we should all try and adapt. But that happens over a period of time. I am a big culprit of the Indian model, so I can't blame it. I'm just saying that we need to get better.
Very well put. Very well put.
Yeah.
I think Abuzar has a question.
Yeah, hi, Purav. And I agree to what we said about in India that the coach matters, and abroad, as you said, the institute matters. My son Hussein is also pursuing tennis for the last nearly 1 year, and I will take the liberty of asking him to seek your advice if required. I was just sharing with Asha ma'am yesterday that her entire family is very talented. You being a nephew and she, and then we also had a brother talk to us. So the entire family is very talented.
Thank you.
Sir, why don't you ask your question now only, so all can benefit for that?
Yeah, so I as I said, I do agree with what he said, and I will seek his. I'll tell Hussein to seek his advice. Talk was definitely very inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, put my at the MLTA again. Before that, the CCI. But I found that at the MSLTA, the concept is they don't have ball boys over there for children. So you're more running behind the balls rather than playing the game. So you played at the MSLTA. Did you also experience similar issues?
I think we need better balls, and we need better. I think ball boys is not the immediate solution. But I think ball boys is a privilege.
Yeah.
President. Yeah.
I guess it's a privilege in countries like India where you have opportunity, labor is cheap.
Honestly, you don't need it. If coaching is done well, we won't need it in a couple of years. We'll be fine without it. It just requires a lot of good balls and a lot more balls rather than ball boys. We need we need to buy more balls. That's all, and good balls. We don't need to worry about the ball boy. The ball boy is if you have 80 to 100 balls a session, it should be fine. So with the
Thanks. Any more questions? So further down, tennis is also now become, as we know, as we are aware, the safest sport, because that was the first sport to start to open up in these COVID times all over the world. And then the other sports opened up. So going forward, our club is thinking of holding tennis tournaments for our own members, as a fun thing, as a fellowship. And I'm going to maybe take the opportunity to invite you to come
sure.
and join us. And also, Dr. Morhad, we will invite you also. And you're a member, so I don't have to invite you. You can just participate. Thank you.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there, President.
As ball boy.
Thank you.
I'll be there as whatever needed. Whatever. Yeah.
So going forward, I think I will ask our Vinod Mirchandani, our member, to do the vote of thanks to Purav Raja for.
Thank you, Vicky, fellow Rotarians, partners, families joining us on this talk. Firstly, at the outset, I'd like to begin by thanking Asha Singh for bringing Purav to the Rotary Club. And I think, like she said, he's Midtown and has imbibed many such qualities of what a Midtowner has, but I will come to that shortly. So thank you, Asha ji, for bringing Purav to our benefit and really learning from his talk. Purav, thank you very much for not only your time, but sharing with us so candidly and through your heart your journey as a star professional in tennis. But I think a lot of what you said is not only applicable to the game of tennis, but really of what is some of life lessons that you've learned through. It is often said life is a game of tennis. The player who serves well seldom loses. And I think your story relates to that. It's great that you've acknowledged your encouragement by your family, a challenge with a lot of stars and sportsmen do face in today's times, but the nurturing effect of your school at the young age of 10 in transforming you to be who you are today and encouraging you to be there as a star. I think your travels and journeys at the age of 10 itself would have transformed your life, as we've understood, but your travels through some of the tougher journeys of Uzbekistan, and I think the story of the sheep will remain with me and maybe re-narrate it when required. And is really an interesting one. So thank you for sharing not only some of your professional experiences, but your personal experiences through travel as well. I think you've very clearly laid out some of the challenges that the youth of today would face, not only within our country, but across the globe. And your experience of traveling and playing in worldwide courts and sharing with us so passionately has certainly given us a lot of food for thought. I think it's often said that it's being a sportsman, it's not the winning that counts, but the taking part that matters. And you have shown that so clearly through all your wins, but also participation in various tournaments. So with that, I'd like to once again thank you very much for joining us today. We would encourage you to continue to engage with Rotary, with your values as a Midtowner. We would certainly welcome you not only to the club events, but perhaps urge you to look at becoming a part of the Rotary family when the time is right. So thank you very much. And on behalf of the Rotary Club of Bombay Midtown, we look forward to welcoming you and engaging you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.